Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Jason and Rafat and the Skift team for this opportunity. My name is Jeremy Jauncey from Beautiful Destinations, and I'm going to kick us off with a very quick question. How many people in the room have an Instagram account? Awesome. OK, that is a very high percentage of people. I'm going to be talking a lot about Instagram. The title of what I'm going to talk about is why visuals are the new language of engagement for consumers. And my goal is three things. Number one, I'm going to share with you guys the power of visual storytelling, and I hope show you a unique perspective on the world that you have never seen before. Number two, I am hopefully going to educate you on the single most powerful marketing platform that we have access to today in social, and that is Instagram. And then number three, and most importantly, I'm going to share how you as travel brands can get smarter with visuals, and by getting smarter, grow the size and the engagement of your Instagram accounts, and then turn it into a marketing asset that you can use to grow your business. So does that sound all right? Good. OK, so quick introductions. Beautiful Destinations is the largest travel influencer on Instagram. We have a highly passionate, highly engaged, highly vocal community of travel enthusiasts, over 7 million followers that engage in the content that we post on our four main accounts. Beautiful Destinations, which is focused on photography of the world's most beautiful places. Beautiful Hotels, which is the same for properties and hotels. Beautiful Cuisines, which is obviously food and restaurants. And Beautiful Matters, which is focused on lifestyle. Now, we are an absolutely global community. We have followers on every continent on the planet, every single US state, over 180 different countries and territories. Now, we do know of 3 places where we don't have followers: Micronesia, Dominica, and the Vatican. So we do have a little bit of work to get those guys on board. But the size and scale is vast. We're very fortunate to be in that position. We are large, maybe not quite as large as a Kardashian, although they do follow us, which is nice. Kendall Jenner is our largest celebrity follower amongst a whole host of other very exciting, influential people on social. And this size allows us to engage with a community of thousands of the most talented content creators and social media influencers around the world. Now, this will range from National Geographic photographers shooting on professional equipment all the way down to amateur enthusiasts like you or I shooting on a smartphone. And this community is so incredibly powerful. We are all aligned. We all have the same mission, and that is to celebrate the beauty of the world and use Instagram to inspire people to travel. OK, so I'm selling you pretty hard here on Instagram, but why does it matter? Why should the travel industry care about Instagram? I've got some statistics to share that you may already be familiar with. It's massive. There are 400 million people using this app every single month. It is eclipsing Twitter. It is the largest and fastest growing social network after parent company Facebook. Not only is it massive, the engagement is absolutely staggering. The average user spends 21 minutes every single day on this app. Now, over 60% of these users will like at least one piece of content every single day. Over 30% of users will actually like more than 10 pieces of content every single day. So not only is this network large and growing at an exponential rate, the engagement from its users is keeping pace. Now, this is incredibly exciting when you consider 3 very important insights for the travel industry. The first is content. A very large percentage of the content created on Instagram is travel-related. We took a handful of the most popular search terms on Google, words that you'd expect, like beach, sun, vacation, holiday. We put those into Instagram, and we found over 353 million pieces of content were tagged with travel-related hashtags, and this is growing at an exponential rate. Now, this tells us 2 exciting things. First, today's connected traveler is posting their experience, is sharing their visual experience in real time on this platform. Second, the flip side of that, people are turning to Instagram in droves to find out where to go. How do I get inspiration about where I want to travel and how I want to travel? Now, there are some people in the audience who are on their cell phones, and I hope you're looking at Instagram, looking at inspiration, because that is what the platform is all about. Now, this insight is made all the more exciting by the second insight. The travel industry is the second slowest industry after financial services to have adopted Instagram. Now, this is completely, insanely crazy. This makes no sense. If I was trying to sell credit cards or mortgages or 401k plans or loans on Instagram, I would absolutely understand the challenge. But travel, it is insane. The product is completely social. It is inherently visual, and yet the industry has been slow to adapt the process and slow to adapt the platform. Now, that is up to you guys to change, and I'm hoping I'm going to keep convincing you. So the third insight then, and perhaps the most important thing, is 4 months ago, Facebook launched a fully fledged advertising business into the Instagram app. It is built on top of the Facebook tech stack, enabling all the powerful analytics, marketing, and engagement tools that has made Facebook so successful. You can now do that with Instagram. Not only can you do that, you have a team of amazing sales and marketing professionals who now work in Instagram that can help you create that content, create those ads, and talks to your consumers. And they've introduced clickable links into those ad units. These links take your users outside of Instagram to the places that you want them to go. Now, you can obviously tell that I'm quite excited about this. The reason really being that we have the largest and most engaged network, social network in the world, where its community, as it grows, is continuing to be so heavily engaged, where a very high percentage of the content that they are creating and engaging in is travel related, and the travel industry is not adopting it. Surely this sounds like an opportunity for you guys to consider changing the way you spend your advertising dollars, right? Sort of, okay. There is one caveat, and it's quite a big one. To be successful on Instagram, you have got to create genuine, authentic, and engaging content, and that is where many brands fall down. So that is what I'm going to talk about now. How can travel brands get smarter with visuals? And by getting smarter with visuals, how can you change and grow the size and engagement of your Instagram account and use it as the marketing asset that it is? At Beautiful Destinations, it all begins and ends with data, and more specifically, data science. Now, what I mean by this is our founding team are data scientists. They are computational music theorists, statisticians, theoretical physicists, even neuroscientists. And these guys are progressing the field of visual analytics, understanding the composition of images to work out the factors that are defining beauty and work out the factors that are driving success on social media. Everything from the color, to the scale, to the hue, to the brightness, to the percentage of person versus landscape, sky versus sea. All of this data science empowers and informs the decisions that we make and has allowed us to derive 3 key insights that I'm going to share with you now. Now, from a data science perspective, we use some very, very complicated models that actually power much of the financial services industry. It is, I promise, not a wazi. It is not a woozy. It is not the fairy dust stuff that you think of when you think of financial services. This is really serious, deep learning, machine learning stuff that's so complicated I really honestly don't understand. But what it allows us to do is really focus on these 3 things. First, if you want to be successful on Instagram, if you want to use visuals to grow the size and engagement of your accounts, you have got to understand which factors are driving your account growth. Now, all accounts will grow at a base organic rate, and this is largely driven, we believe, by follower boosts from posting. Now, that can be positive, where actually the content that you post really engages your audience, and more and more of them like and follow your account. But in most cases, well, in many cases, it is negative. And what many people don't realize is that when you post content that does not engage your audience, you actually lose followers. So from a standing point, really think about the content that you're posting and make sure by looking at the data that it is driving account growth. Now, there are a handful of simple things that you can track that will help you to do that. Stuff like the time of the day that you're posting, the consistency and frequency that you do post, the length and even the sentiment of your captions, whether you're tagging or geotagging. All of those things you can measure, and all of those things, if you understand them, will help you to define what are the things that are causing your accounts to grow. Now, the second thing is measuring influence. How can we measure influence? And more specifically, how can we measure influencers? How many people in the room are familiar with the term influencer? Okay, everybody. How many in the room have either used influencers or are considering using influencers in your future marketing? Amazing. That's also another very high percentage. You can't see, so you'll have to take my word for it. How many in the room have looked at the data of an influencer, matched it up against their own social data, understood the key social actions that that influencer can take for you, and then built out a data-driven ROI against engaging with an influencer? Very, very few, very few. Now, the reason that it's so few is because it is incredibly difficult, and more importantly, the industry is measuring influence incorrectly. We are measuring influence blindly. Now, most of us are thinking of influence through one of two lenses. The first is the creative lens, which is incredibly important. Do the stylistic branding elements of the content that is created by this influencer match with my own brand? That's incredibly important. It is the fundamental pillar for engaging an influencer. The second, which I'm sorry to say is completely misguided and in many cases completely wrong, is how big is that influencer's following and how engaged is their following. Now, I'm sorry, but that is completely wrong. What you need to understand when you look at engaging influencers is first, what is the data that sits underneath that influencer? You have to understand their core data. And second, and most importantly, you've got to understand the 6 key social actions that an influencer can take for you. They are, number 1, of course, is creating new content. Number 2 is liking your content. Number 3 is commenting on your content. Number 4 is mentioning or shouting you out. Number 5 is tagging you in their content, which can be, a photo tag, or it can be a geotag. And number 6 is they can follow your account. Now, each one of those actions will actually cause a different growth in your own account if they are matched with you properly. We call this follower velocity, the impact and change in the size and engagement of your Instagram account based on the social actions that an influencer can take on your behalf. And that is how you measure influence, and that is how you need to think about measuring influencers. So I'm coming close on time. We now understand that there are factors that you can measure to actually help you manage your account growth. We've also understood that there are ways to measure influence, and actually, more importantly, we can and should be working with influencers. The third and final piece that I'm going to end on is we have to create social-first content. Now, what this means is taking a unique perspective on the world and showcasing that. What it does not mean, which so many brands do, is take their traditional above-the-line advertising, that content that they shot for print, and thinking, okay, let's trickling it down to Instagram and that will work. It absolutely does not. Now, social-first content is incredibly important when you consider the accounts on Instagram that grow in terms of size and engagement do so because they show a completely unique perspective on the world. Now, how many in the room are familiar with the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio? Everybody, of course. As I say that, you probably have one of two images. Potentially, it's the shot from the bottom of the hill, looking at the statue in all of its glory. Alternatively, it may be one of the aerial shots, again, the same shot, but you can see Rio in the background. How many of you guys have seen the statue shot like this? Or like this? Or like this? Now, I know this is an extreme example. We can't all go and get selfies in the head of Christ the Redeemer. That's not what I'm suggesting. The point that I'm trying to make here is this is a landmark that has been shot millions and millions of times. And all it took was an influencer with a slightly different perspective on the world to capture a piece of content that exploded on social media and then exploded in the traditional media. Now, we all know the Bellagio. It is an iconic property. We've all seen the vista, the fountains of Bellagio. The introduction here of a social-first content is the use of Murad and Natalie Osman. You may have seen their work, the Follow Me 2 series, where Natalie leads Murad around the world, showing him the beauty of the world. They tell a social-first story through the lens of love. It's incredibly powerful, it's incredibly engaging, and it has been highly successful on social media. So, unfortunately, I'm out of time. Thank you so much for listening. You've now had a 15-minute tutorial on Instagram, so I really hope that you will change the way you think about Instagram. As I wrap up, the last 3 things for you to remember, if you're going to go back and actually do anything after this conference and remember anything I've said, is which factors drive account growth. You have to understand that. Second, how can you measure influence and how can you measure influencers? And third, please create social-first content. Thank you very much.